This tutorial is designed to help you to get to grips with the basics of Event CAD. We'll create a new layout in the 2D, add a frame tent, round tables and chairs, a dance floor and some text, and have a look at how to move around. Then we'll take that into 3D, change the dance floor material, add some window walls and a door, some window drapes, and change the swag colours. We'll also have a look at moving around the 3D, getting the drawing ready to print or email, and then printing or emailing for the customer. To begin, double click on the icon on your screen. If this is the first time that you've used Event CAD, then you'll need to update your settings. You'll see a message box that says please set desired default units. Press OK and it will bring up the settings menu. Leave the image quality at low and the gutter control off. Set your default units to millimeters. And the screen format and printer format, you should just take the first in the list and then press save. It will tell you that Event CAD needs to be restarted. Just press OK and it will restart the program automatically for you. Don't be too overwhelmed by all the buttons. We're going to show you how to use the basic ones, and then the others you can investigate later. So we're going to begin with a frame tent. So we'll go to the left hand side and click on frame. The frame tents are split into a number of groups. We've got 2.3 metre leg structures with 3 metre bays, then on a 5 metre bay, and if you take hold and just drag the menu across, you'll see there are other choices. You've also got canopies and traditionals a bit further along. If the tent that you want isn't there, don't worry, because they can be added. But for now, we're going to take a 12 metre frame tent and we're going to set the length that we want it to be. So down at the bottom, I'm going to choose 21 metres or 21,000 millimetres, and I'm going to set it with a first bay and an end bay, which means it's going to put a standard flat gable onto the end of the tent. We could choose to put a hip end on or a bell end, so a 3-sided or a 5-sided, and we could do that at either end, or we could leave it open if we were doing a porch or if we're joining to another tent, but we're going to stick with a first bay and end bay for now. Click on the tent with the arrow and then click on the screen where you'd like to put the tent. The green cross indicates the centre of the screen, and we're going to move the tent to bring it so that it's right in the centre. And then in the bottom left hand corner you'll find the select button. We'll be turning that on and off quite a lot. I'm going to turn it off now, and then if I take my left mouse and hold it down and move around, you'll see that the green cross is moving, which indicates that we're moving the sheet of paper around. So we're moving where the centre of our working area is. Good idea to try and keep it in the middle for printing purposes. If you hold the right mouse and go forwards or backwards, you'll zoom in and zoom out. So we'll just bring that back to the centre, and then we'll add some tables and chairs. So click on the toolbox, choose dining, and it's asking you to select the top left position. Wherever we click the mouse now is where the centre of the top left of our group of tables is going to be. We'll illustrate that in a second. Back down to the bottom, next to the picture of the table, click on the question mark and choose the table that you want. We'll take a 5-foot cupboard. And then next to the picture of the chair, take the chair that you want. We now have a 5-foot cupboard table with gilt banquet golds, and we've got 8 around the table. You can change that number and you can type in manually to that box. You can change the default distance between the centre of the table and the centre of the chair by changing the figure in here, and that will move the chairs either further away or closer to the table. So that's a little bit further away, or we can bring them much closer just by reducing the distance. It's up to you, whatever distance you prefer. The default distance is usually pretty close. If we then want to add some more tables across the screen, then we have a plus and a minus here. So if we click on the plus button until we have enough, and then below it, this will give us more down the screen. You can reduce it or add to it, and you can change the configuration. So play around with that until you're happy with what you've got on screen. And then once you're happy, I'm going to have one less column, I think. Then click on the Add Displayed Tables button and they'll be added to the drawing. They're in red at the moment, which means they're highlighted and can be moved. So to stop us moving them by accident, turn the select button off. So now we have the tent and the table and chairs, and we're going to add a dance floor. Again, back to the toolbox, and this time we want a solid box. We can set the dimensions. X is the left to right across the screen. You can set this in feet or in millimeters, it doesn't matter. You just must put the sign of what it is you're doing. So we'll have 20 foot, and then the height, this is physically the height off the ground. So that could be 25 millimeters, or it could be an inch, which is roughly the same thing. It's your choice. And we'll have that by 24 foot. So the X is this dimension here, the Y is physically from the ground, and then the Z is coming this way. I'm going to set that to be a dance floor, and the reason for that is that when we're looking at objects to be able to turn them off, if I've got several objects that are similar and they're all called box, they'll all be turned off together. This allows me to manipulate the dance floor on its own. And I'm also going to tile the material across the dance floor. You can choose to tile or stretch, and I'll show you again the implications of that once we're into the 3D. So for now, I've set the dimensions, I've set it to tile, and I've said that it's a dance floor. And I'm going to click on the screen and drop it in. Now this time, I'm not going to turn the select off. I'm going to take hold of the corner of the dance floor and I'm going to move it. You can't get hold of the dance floor in the middle and move it. You must get hold of an edge. It will go blue and then you can move it around. Once you're happy with its position, turn the select off and it will go black, and you can't move it by accident. You're moving the whole of the piece of paper. Now while we're in the 2D, we'll add some text. So click on Toolbox again and go to Text. Now this time you can choose to take some of the text that's already defined, click on it and click onto the screen where you'd like it. Or you might want to put in your own information. So type it in and then click onto the screen where you'd like it. The text is currently a little bit large, so we're going to reduce the size. Click on one of the pieces and the underline will show you that it's highlighted. If you then go to the left hand side and choose Group, it will highlight the rest of the text. Then come down to text size and click the minus sign until it's the size that you want it. I'm going to then release it and select again, so I can just move the word dance floor to where I want it to be. Okay, I'm happy with the 2D for now, so we're going to move into the 3D. But before we do that, perhaps it would be a good idea to save the drawing. If I click on Save and say yes, I want to save the layout, it's telling me that I must fill in the reference and name. So I need to go to Details. I need to give it a reference. This can be part of the customer's name, it can be a number, it doesn't matter, it's your choice. We'll have this for Mrs. Smith, and that's all the information I'm going to complete for now. So we'll close that, and now we can save. So if at this point we do anything that we're not happy with, we can go back to that saved version. To get into the 3D, you can click the button at the bottom here that switches between 2D and 3D, or you can double click on the screen and that will have the same effect. By default, the first view is always as if you're standing at the bottom of the screen looking in this direction. But a more useful view to work with is the above view. So if you come down to the bottom and click the above ladder button, and then hold your right mouse button and move up the screen, the whole tent will tilt towards you. Once you've got it tipped far enough, turn the above button off, otherwise you'll continue to tilt the tent rather than turn it. If you hold the right mouse button and go left or right, you'll see that the drawing is rotating around quite a tight centre of rotation. If you do the same with the left mouse button, you'll see that the centre of rotation is much wider, and usually a combination of the two will get you to a good position. To go closer to the tent, use the left mouse and go forward, backwards to zoom out, and to come down from the aerial view that we're at the moment, right mouse and down, or up if you need to go further up. So left mouse and forward, right mouse and down, left mouse and turn it around a little bit. That gives us quite a nice view. We can see inside the tent, we can see outside the tent, and we can get hold of whatever we need. So we're going to change the material to the dance floor. We'll go back to select and click on the dance floor. From the toolbox, we're going to select material, and we're going to click on the button here that allows us to choose the material group we want. In this case it will be flooring, and I'm going to use a black and white dance floor. Now there are two choices. This material has already got lots of black and white squares on it. If I were using a stretched dance floor, then that would appear exactly as it is here on that area. Because this isn't a stretched dance floor, it's tiling it in every metre, which makes it way too small, the squares. So we'll take this one, and that will then tile across a metre square. You can change the material as you want, just click on the one that you're happy with. Once you're happy with that, turn the select off, and the dance floor is released again. Now we're going to add an entrance, which we're going to put at this end of the tent. So again, I need the select button, and I want to select the wall. I don't want flooring, this time I want doors, and 2.3 by 3 metre. I'm going to put it in the centre of the tent, so we'll take this one. So now I have a door in the wall, but unfortunately I've got some linings poking through the back of there that I don't want. So I'm going to go to the show button on the left hand side, and I want wall lining. Now they're at the bottom of the list, so if I just drag that list up and double click wall lining, it turns off everything except the wall linings. So I can now click onto the wall lining, go back to the materials and choose linings, and I can scroll this along and find the curtains. If I then go back to show and go to the 3D button at the top, it will put me back the default options for 3D, and I can see through my doors. I also want to add some window walls, so this time I'm going to take just the walls. My select is on. I also want the lock button because I want to be able to select more than one at once. I'm going to take all of those, materials, windows, and then Georgian. You could have panoramic, you could have Gothic, but I'm going to stick with Georgian for this one. Now, having set these to be window walls, I'm going to have the same problem when I go back to the 3D that I had with the doors. I need curtains behind them, or I need to remove them. So again, this time we'll go to wall linings, and we'll select all of the ones that we've just turned into windows, back to the materials, linings, find the curtains and change them over. Then we'll show the normal 3D view. So we've now got a coloured dance floor, we've got windows and doors, and we've got window drapes. Now the other thing that I'm going to change the swags to match the seat pads on the chairs. So if I take just swags, I'm going to click on one of the swags, and then this time I'm going to use the same plus button here. So all of the things that are the same, in this case the swags, are now linked. And then from my toolbox, this time I want the colour palette. So go to colours, and I'm going to scroll along until I find a nice red, and then show all of my 3D again. So I'm quite happy with that, but that means there are some more things I want to put into the 2D. So if I double click on the screen, we'll go back to 2D, and from the toolbox, objects, 2D doors and windows, I want to put a 2D double door on this wall. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit to make it easier to work with. And then we're going to add some 2D window detail. So click on the 2D 3 meter window and click where you'd like it to be. And then we'll take another one for the top. And when you've put the first one in place, double click to get a second one next to it. And then we'll add one off to the side, but we're going to need 4. Once we've got the 4, use the turn button twice to turn them round, and then move them into place. I'm also going to add a little bit more text. I'm going to turn it round, move it into place, and make it a bit smaller. So now I have a 2D view and a 3D view that I'm happy with. So I'm going to save the drawing again at this point. If we go back to the 2D for a moment, this table is going to be in the way of the entrance, so we need to delete it. Highlight it and either use the delete button or the delete key on your keyboard, and it's gone. If you didn't mean to do that and you haven't saved your drawing since, you can also undo that. So you can delete it, undo it, or delete it with the key on your keyboard. And then we'll just save again before we go on to print. Once you're happy with your drawing, you can print the 2D, you can print the 3D, or you can print them both together. That's a really nice view to give customers. The overhead layout gives them a really good idea of what their layout's going to be, how much room they're going to have. The 2D makes it very clear where all the tables and chairs and dance floor and everything are going to be, but to have the two together is really good. So we'll go back to the 3D. Make it as large as you can. Whatever green space you have around the edge now, you will also have when you produce it for the customer. So just get in as close as you can. Fill the screen as much as you can. And then when you're happy, go to the output button. We're going to choose low resolution because we're going to save this drawing to add in to our main print. The high resolution is really quite large and not usually necessary unless you're going to print it very large. So to print to normal A3 or A4, the low resolution's perfectly fine. This one's going to be saved into the gallery, so click on Save New to Gallery and close. Then we'll go back to the 2D. Once you've got it as big as you can and kind of central, back to output, and this time to print. Now this will bring it to screen. Don't worry too much about the quality you're seeing here. That is not what you will get when you print it out. But this is now what your customer is going to see. So this could be your company name, the customer details, and your 2D drawing. You can pick it up and move it with the left mouse. And if you use the right mouse and go forwards, you'll make it larger. The red square won't be there when you print, so don't worry about that. Just make sure that the drawing itself is within the bounds of the template. If we then want to add the 3D that we did earlier, click on the camera button, find the one that you want, and double click it. You can then move that to where you want, make it bigger, smaller, whatever it is you want to do. You can add more pictures onto here again. If you want to save 2 or 3 different views, you can do that and you can bring more into here. You can also add in anything else that you want into the template. Just type into the boxes and then when you click onto the drawing, you'll see that that information is updated. The date's gone a bit large, so what we'll do is we'll make that numeric format, and that should then fit nicely into the box. When you have what you want on the screen here, You can choose to print, in which case you can select your printer and print it physically, or you can choose to PDF it. If you click on PDF, it's going to output to A4, and it's going to save automatically to where your EventCAD programs are, but you can change that, so you can create a new folder, put it into your My Documents or EventCAD drawings or whatever you prefer. You can also choose to email the PDF or open it as a PDF. If you choose to email as a PDF, then as long as you have Outlook installed on your machine, and if it's Outlook 2010 it must be open when you try to email, then it will open a new email for you. So down at the bottom of the screen we have untitled message flashing. If we click on that, you can then choose who you're going to send it to, add anything else you need to, and the PDF will be attached. So in this case I'm not actually going to send it. Or you can choose to open it as a PDF, and then when you choose Save PDF, it's created the saved file, but it's also opened a copy. So you can see that the quality is much better than you were seeing on the screen. You've got the 2D, the 3D, and the customer's information. It also tells you where you've saved it, so if you've hurriedly saved it in a strange location, you should hopefully be able to find it again. If you then close the print layout screen, you'll go back to where you were, and then you're ready to either add some more to your drawing, save your drawing, or close it down and carry on with your next drawing. When you do exit the program, it will remind you to save the layout, so if you haven't already done so at this point you will be reminded, but it's well worthwhile saving your drawing as you go. Hopefully this tutorial will have helped you with the basics of EventCAD. To help you learn more about some of the additional features, there are a number of tutorial videos on YouTube which you can access by clicking on the YouTube icon in the top right hand corner of EventCAD. If you would like to subscribe to the EventCAD channel, then you'll be automatically notified if we make additions or amendments to these videos. You can also access the help file by clicking on the question mark button next to the YouTube icon. If you do have any further questions, then please don't hesitate to get in touch.